Welcome to a special edition live stream of the Cam Show here on Rogue Media Sports Network, recapping all the Patriots have done so far in day one of NFL free agency tampering. Really the first day of NFL free agency. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. We are here live every weekday, high noon Eastern time on YouTube, and then wherever you get your podcast. We are talking Boston sports all the time. We've done a lot on the NHL trade deadline recently, and now we got thrown right into the flux of NFL free agency, and a huge one for the New England Patriots, obviously. They've got over $120 million in cap space, more room than just about anybody in the league to go out there and spend some money. And after an hour or two of are they going to miss out on everybody? The Patriots have spent money. I am happy to report that the Patriots have spent money, and they've spent it, I think, wisely here in the first day of tampering for NFL free agency. Of course, the big name of the day, Milton Williams, recent Super Bowl champion with the Philadelphia Eagles, and boy, did he have himself a game in that Super Bowl. He is now a New England Patriot. 4 years, $104 million, $63 million guaranteed, the highest paid player in New England Patriots history. Sorry, Tom Brady at $25 million a year. Here comes Milton Williams at $26 million a year. And he comes in, speaking of 26, he's not only turning 26 until this summer. He's still 25 years old, and he's one of the best interior defensive linemen in the entire NFL. I know that there's a lot of speculation about whether he can disrupt anything with the quarterback, if he's more of just a run stuffer, can he be out there for a little bit of both? He's clearly a great guy to plug up the middle at his size, but also he can get after the quarterback, I think, sneaky better than a lot of people think. In fact, he was the second highest rated interior defensive lineman in terms of getting after the quarterback by PFF last year. So he can do a little bit of that as well. And when you've got a guy with this kind of talent at this age, about to enter into his prime, $26 million a year is what you've got to dish out. And the good news is for the Patriots and for Patriots fans, I don't think you had to way overpay for Milton Williams. I think that's about the market that he was looking at. And you pried him away from two other teams. Now, they're two other bad teams, but so are you, right? So that's already a win. Somebody's picking you over something else. You know, the Cardinals were interested, but the team that really came down to the wire with Milton Williams was the Carolina Panthers. In fact, there were all kinds of reports early this afternoon. I'm sure a lot of reporters thankful that Twitter was down most of the day, that they were saying it's basically a done deal. We're just waiting on the terms. We're just waiting on this thing to get official. But the Panthers are going to sign Milton Williams. And for a little bit there, it looked like the Patriots, who had him, right at the top of their board for free agency, that was a huge chatter point around the scouting combine last week. It looked like the Patriots were shit out of luck again, right? They missed out on Chris Godwin earlier in the day. He extends with the Bucs. That certainly looked like he was going to be one of their top targets. You know, there were trade rumors for DK Metcalf. He goes to Pittsburgh. Certainly Ronnie Stanley was going to be at the top of their free agent board, and he re-signs with Baltimore. And it was like, man, are they going to miss out on everybody here if Milton Williams goes to the Panthers? I guess we'll never know, because now he's a New England Patriot. That's a big-time move. That's a big-time move for this organization. Now, it's clear that they've gone to bolster their defense more so than their offense, which we'll talk about throughout this stream. But that is a guy who is at the top of your list. He's entering into his prime. You didn't have to way overpay. You're paying market value. You're paying pretty good money. He's the highest paid player in Patriots history. But you were able to pry him away from a couple of other teams, including the Panthers, which normally you'd say, okay, prying him from the Panthers, who cares? But A, you also suck. And B, the Panthers, they still suck, but they looked like they were going in a positive direction towards the end of last season. And they've got a young quarterback too with some promise. Bryce Young, probably not as good as Drake May has been throughout their brief NFL careers, but there's something to be optimistic about if you're a Carolina Panthers fan. And Milton Williams, around similar money, I'm sure, for both of these teams, saw a better vision here with the Patriots. And now he is a New England Patriot, third highest paid interior defensive lineman in all of the NFL right now, behind Christian Wilkins and Chris Jones. And last year, 5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, and 10 QB hits. For a guy of his size playing on the interior, I'm taking those numbers. I'm really taking those numbers. And now the Patriots still need some big-time help in their pass rush. But lest we forget, they couldn't stop the run at all last year. They were horrible at it. And, we're talking middle of the season, Gerard Mayo calling out his team in the media saying they're not tough. Toughness is running the football and stopping the run. They can't do either of them. And it was true. The teams, there was a stretch in the middle of the season, 4 or 5 straight games where teams were like 20 yards over their average in rushing yards per game when they played the Patriots. It was awful to watch. So Milton Williams comes in and helps a bit of that. And, oh, by the way, by the time he's at your training camp, he will literally have a Super Bowl ring. That's not for nothing for this Patriots team that's very young, that's trying to establish a culture. You get a guy in Milton Williams who, yeah, he's chasing the money a little bit. Who wouldn't at his age with his ability? And he's played for a model franchise, probably the silver standard franchise in the NFL of the last 6 or 7 years, if you're going to consider, obviously, the Chiefs being the gold standard. They do things the right way in Philadelphia, and they've won a lot of football games, and now they've won another Super Bowl. Milton Williams a part of that. Speaking of guys who have won a Super Bowl playing on the defensive side, the next biggest signing of the day for the Patriots, Carlton Davis, cornerback, Detroit, formerly of Tampa, where he won the Super Bowl with Brady. 3 years, $60 million, $34.5 million guaranteed. And boy, another guy who just turned 28, by the way, so he should still be in his prime. And boy, can the Patriots be tough to throw against on the outside. Because Carlton Davis is a slept-on cornerback on one side, and Christian Gonzalez, one of the best corners in the league, second-team All-Pro this year, on the other side. That is immediate bolstering of your defense right there. Now, that in and of itself makes me wonder if Travis Hunter falls to them at 4, are they still as concerned with a guy like Travis Hunter? Do they move back and maybe then take that stab at Will Campbell and get some other draft capital? That remains to be seen. But for Carlton Davis, he obviously played for Terrell Williams last year in Detroit. Terrell Williams, the new Patriots defensive coordinator, who I'm not terribly high on. But hey, if he's going to be able to bring in a guy like Carlton Davis, I'm happy with that. And by the way, Ben Solak, who's been covering the NFL a while, he put out a list on the end of last week, the most underrated free agents that can be steals. And literally the first name on his list, cornerback Carlton Davis. Oh, there it is. Davis, like many of the 2025 sleeper free agents, ended the season on IR. Important to note. Though other players are coming off major injuries that might affect their athleticism moving forward, Davis is recovering from a broken jaw. But his absence has made it easy to forget just how valuable he was to Detroit before his injury-riddled implosion. He was the clear CB1 in a man coverage-heavy defense. There are 3 28-year-old starting cornerbacks in this free agent class, along with Travarius Ward and DJ Reed, each a little different style, and Davis has a much longer injury history than the other two. That's how you get to market, right? So that's something that does need to be in play here. And he has never played a full season in his 7-year career. That's how he gets to market as a 28-year-old. But seriously, the talent is there. He just needs to stay on the field, which has been much easier said than done for him during his career. This can't be the only move that the Patriots make at corner, whether it be free agency or through the draft, right? They need to bolster that position room both by depth and by talent. A defense that goes on to say this, I think this is important. A defense that asks Davis to play a little more zone will better fit his skill set. And that is more or less what we're hearing about this Vrabel defense and what he kind of played in Tennessee. The Patriots have played a lot of man, but it sounds like that's going to be that zone is going to be more of a priority defense for Mike Vrabel and for Terrell Williams. They expected him to get somewhere around, this is Solak there, expected him to get around 3 years, $42 million. He got 3 years and $60 million. So whereas Milton Williams was a lot of money, it wasn't an overpay. You probably didn't pay the suck tax on Milton Williams. You paid market value. Carlton Davis, you paid the suck tax. You paid the suck tax a little bit. $34.5 million guaranteed and $20 million a year over 3 seasons. That's a lot. That's a lot. But if he's able to be out there for a majority of the Patriots games, that is automatically by getting one guy bolstering a part of your defense, which is not easy to do. The Patriots did have a heavy focus on defense today. They also go with Harold Landry and Robert Spillane at linebacker. I think it's interesting that was not a great position group last year. Neither was really any for the Patriots outside of quarterback. Mike Vrabel comes in right away and says, linebacker. To me, that's a sign of like, your linebacker room sucks. Sucks worse than you thought it did. It's pretty bad. So Harold Landry was the first one. 3 years, $43.5 million. Some people, I'm seeing some negative reaction around Harold Landry. I'm not going to sit here and say I watched all of his games playing with Tennessee, but I like the numbers here for him, and I think the price ain't that bad. 19, he is going to turn 29 in June, so still in his prime. It's weird. He missed a full season in 22, but other than that, he's missed like one game in his NFL career. So kind of Brady-esque in that way. He's not a very big guy. He was playing around 230 last year, which is not very big at all for a pass rusher. Now his PFF rush grades are not great, but the guy gets sacks. He produces. He's got 19.5 sacks over the last 2 seasons. And that doesn't count, obviously. He missed all of 22, and in 21, he had 12 sacks. So he's been a guy who was productive at getting after the quarterback before and after the injury. I'm interested to see how much he's able to be on the field and what kind of packages they're using him in. BC kid, drafted by Vrabel in Tennessee. So there's a lot of connections here. Obviously, I mentioned Carlton Davis with Detroit and Terrell Williams. The other linebacker, Robert Spillane, was signed by the Titans as an undrafted free agent when he came out of college. And honestly, there's not a lot about Robert Spillane. And if you're going to pick one that's kind of oh, really? Kind of signing in this day, it would probably be Robert Spillane from the Raiders. Kind of a weird career, man. Like, nothing about his resume is terribly inspiring, but the guy, like the coaches doing the research on him today, like coaches and other players, they just rave about him when he was on their team. He doesn't stick around very long, but they love to have him in the building. They love to have him as a part of the defense. 3 years, $37 million. That's a little bit of the suck tax there, of course. And when he's with Tennessee for a year, and Vrabel cut him like 3 or 4 times. It was kind of like a Ross Ventrone situation. He just kept making it back to the practice squad and getting elevated when they needed him. Run support guy, not a pass rusher. Run support guy, 100%. That's the one. And that was really the second one that came across our radar. Harold Landry was last night, and Spillane was the first one we got of the Monday afternoon news. And it was like, oh boy, this is not good. We already heard about Ronnie Stanley. We heard about Chris Godwin. And then the first one off the board, the first 2 are Harold Landry and Robert Spillane. And you're like, oh shit, here we go. But the Patriots picked it up with Carlton Davis and Milton Williams. They did make one offensive signing at the time of this stream on Monday afternoon. Morgan Moses. They did go out and get a tackle. He's not Ronnie Stanley. He's damn near the same age, but he's not Ronnie Stanley. This is going to be year, I believe, 13 in the league for Morgan Moses. Right tackle, has not played left tackle. That's kind of the moniker with him. He's dependable, but maybe not versatile. All right. Dependable. He plays all the time. He doesn't miss many games. Kind of, down year this past year with the Jets, who didn't have a down year with the Jets, right? 3 years, $24 million. Like, this is just the perfect kind of bridge guy. And obviously that's the kind of guy the Patriots were going for in free agency at the tackle position. They weren't going to be able to sign a tackle long-term because those guys don't make it to market. They just don't. But here you got a guy who, scattered injury history, not a lot. He's played a lot of games in this league. Not terribly different from Tyron Smith, who you went after last year. Tyron Smith, obviously, with more value at a left tackle, but another guy who had played a long time, didn't miss many games. That's where Morgan Moses fits in, the former Jet, the former Commander, as just a guy who can elevate your offensive line just by being in the room. I mean, this is one of the worst offensive lines in NFL history last year. So to just have a guy who can play the tackle position to come in here, I think that's a nice pickup for the Patriots at $8 million, which is not an insignificant number for a guy of Moses's age. But when you've got, when you've got the cap space that you have, you can afford to do that. But the big talk of the day is that the Patriots go almost exclusively defense. They don't help out Drake May very much in this first day of tampering. Let me be clear. They do need to do that. Like that. There's no way around that, whether that's in the next couple of days of free agency, because look, there ain't going to be much left by Wednesday when it opens. Whether it's then, whether they can pull off a trade, or whether it's in the NFL draft, maybe they found that their best plan of attack was to attack veteran defensive guys in free agency and work out the offensive kinks in the draft. And, saying we trust Josh McDaniels, we trust Drake May, we can find some guys that we can develop in the draft. Now, it's a new regime, but obviously the Patriots have not been great at drafting and developing skill positions. Not really great at all in doing that. So it's an interesting way to go about it. But the Patriots went out there and they got veteran guys, right? They signed 5 guys in the first day of free agency that are 28 years or older. That includes re-signing Austin Hooper, which I think is a fine move, but I would rather them go and get a tight end in the draft. That hasn't worked out for them very well the last 15 years or so. But that would have been a position I'd love for them to have prioritized in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but this is going to be fascinating to look at towards the end of the week, how this will affect their draft strategy. I still don't think we live in a world where you can pass up an opportunity at Travis Hunter at number 4. Even if it's just to be mostly a wide receiver slot corner. I think that's perfect for him. Perfect. And then you'd have a loaded corner room with Hunter and obviously Gonzalez and Carlton Davis. Like that's a huge upgrade over what you had last year, and obviously probably saying goodbye to Jonathan Jones as well. I think this is a decent first day. The Milton Williams thing makes it a good first day. And I like Carlton Davis. The injury history is concerning, and you just never know how much you're going to get out of him. And he's a guy who takes risks, but he's been a high-end corner whenever he's on the field. And to shore up that position, I think, is good. It's not the most important one. They still got to get Drake May some help. They really got to get Drake May some help. I don't know what's going to appease fans in terms of wide receiver. I think Godwin might have. That ship has sailed. And I've said it on the Cam show for weeks now. Like, it's not a bad option, Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper. They're not bad options. Stephon Diggs might still be a fine option for this team. But you've got to get one name in there on the offensive side. Because none of those guys, none of those three guys I just listed are in their peak anymore. They're not in their prime. All right. But you get a name in there, and maybe that connection starts to work out with Drake May, and then other guys start to see it, and they say, well, Cooper Kupp went there. My man Cooper Kupp went there. He had a big season. They almost, they were in the playoff picture the last month of the season. This Drake May kid's legit. Like there is some of that. But surprising first day of free agency for the Patriots in terms of how much they focused on the defensive side. Milton Williams is a major pickup for them. It's got to be one of the headline moves of free agency, especially the Carolina Panthers thought they had him in their uniform. And instead, a 26-year-old monster on the defensive line is now coming to the Patriots. That's still big time, because you don't know what the timeline is for Christian Barmore. You don't know how many snaps he's got left in him. This is, and you can't be angry with whatever decision it is from Christian Barmore. Like, we're talking about a man playing with his health and his life here with the blood clots thing. He might never play again. We don't know. And so to shore that up with a guy like Milton Williams, I think is really going to help this Patriots defensive line. They still need some pass rush. I don't know where they get it. There's not much out there. Look, damaged goods, but Joey Bosa's out there. Could that be an option for the Patriots, and just taking a flyer, low risk, high reward kind of thing? I think it's probably worth a look, but you just don't know how many games he's got left either. So interesting strategy. First day of free agency, Mike Vrabel. I guess Elliott Wolf too. Mainly Mike Vrabel and Ryan Cowden looking at defense and shoring that up. Are the Patriots going to be able to win games on defense this year? I still don't know. You're asking a lot of improvement to start winning games 17-14. And I don't know. It's crazy to say. I don't know if you have enough talent offensively to start winning games 17-14 or 20-14 or something. But you do have to wonder that with just how awful that offensive line was and that wide receiver room was, and your old tight end. We'll see. But bottom line is the Patriots still need to fix offensive line, mainly left tackle. Much easier said than done. And you got to get some weapons for Drake May. But you got an NFL competent tackle. You got a pretty damn good cornerback on the other side of your top cornerback, Christian Gonzalez. You got a little better at linebacker. And you got one of the biggest fish in the free agency pond in Milton Williams, and you pried him from another team. So to me, the Patriots are better today than they were yesterday. That's where we start. For a team that's won 8 combined games in the last 2 years, to be better today than you were yesterday is a win. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Get involved in the comment section below what you thought of this Patriots day one of free agency, what they still need to address, who they can still get out there and get. There are some offensive tackles that we'll talk about later on this week on the Cam Show. Be sure to like and subscribe. We come to you live on YouTube every day, high noon Eastern time, and then we're available wherever you get your podcasts. So we appreciate you guys for tuning into the live stream. We will have more on this on tomorrow's show and throughout the week. Patriots free agency. What more do they need to do? We'll answer that question every weekday live at high noon Eastern time on the Cam Show.